Alright guys, now that you have successfully measured the compositions of the different sediments in your soil sample, we need to learn how to read the soil texture triangle to understand what kind of texture your soil sample has. So this right here is the soil texture triangle, and notice that obviously as a triangle it has three sides, and the side on the left is the percent clay, the side on the right is the percent of silt, and on the bottom we have the percent of sand. So if we take a look at the percent of clay, notice the numbers go up as you go up the triangle, and you follow the lines straight across. If we look at the percent of silt, notice that the numbers are on a diagonal, sloping down. And notice when we follow a line, it goes downward on a slope. And then if we follow along the bottom, if we're looking at the percent sand, notice that the numbers are also slanted. This time they're slanted up. And so whenever we look at a number, we follow those slanted lines. So let's take a look at an example. Our first example right here has clay with 21%. So we find clay, we find 21%, which is just above the 20, and follow that line straight over. Then we find the percent of sand, which happens to be 66, and so notice that's going to be between 60 and 70%. So we find 66, which is closer to 70, and follow that line straight up. And then finally we find the silt composition, which happens to be 13%. And so that's going to be between 10 and 20, and we follow that line down. Notice where they all intersect. It intersects in the sandy clay loam. And so that's what we would describe this particular sediment sample as. As another example, let's take a look at this one. In this case, the clay happens to be 7%, so notice that's just beneath the 10, so we follow that line over. And then we find the sand, which happens to be 15%, so notice that's between 10 and 20, and we follow that line up. And finally, the silt is high, it is 78%, and so we locate that line and follow it down, and notice where they all happen to meet is the silt loam. So if you have any questions, come on up to the front and ask me those questions. And at this point, you should be able to grab the texture triangle from the top front of the classroom and hopefully identify what your sample is.